How you doing, everybody? My name is Dr. Sami Baya. Please welcome back to my YouTube channel. What happens when a narcissist loses their grade A supply, their best supply? That's the title of this video. Number one, we need to understand narcissistic supply. A narcissist's sense of self-worth is heavily dependent on external validation, known as narcissistic supply. This supply can come from admiration, attention, or validation from others. The grade A supply is the most valuable source, typically someone who provides the highest level of admiration and validation. The role of grade A supply often consists of individuals who offer unwavering support and admiration. They may be highly influential or emotionally invested in the narcissists, making their validation particularly impactful. Now, when you talk about loss of grade A supply, when a narcissist loses the grade A supply, they face a significant emotional and psychological challenge. This loss can trigger a range of reactions due to the disruption in their self-esteem and emotional stability. When you talk about emotional instability, the loss of grade A supply can lead to intense emotional instability. The narcissist may experience mood swings when they lose their grade A supply. They may experience anxiety or depressive symptoms as they struggle to cope with the void left by their primary source of validation. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be increased manipulation. In response to losing their grade A supply, a narcissist may increase their manipulative behaviors. They might attempt to manipulate or charm others in an effort to regain their lost admiration or to find a new high value source. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, they'll seek new supply. The narcissist will likely start searching for a new grade A supply. They may seek out individuals who show potential to offer similar levels of validation and admiration, often targeting those who are emotionally vulnerable or easily impressed. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be devaluation of the lost supply. To cope with the loss, the narcissist may engage in devaluation of the former grade A supply. They might downplay the importance of the individual or blame them for the loss, attempting to preserve their own self-image. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be external blame. A common reaction is to blame the lost supply for the breakup or loss of admiration. This serves as a defense mechanism, allowing the narcissist to avoid taking responsibility for the situation. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be temporary isolation. The narcissist may experience a period of temporary isolation as they withdraw from social circles. This isolation can be a result of both their emotional state and their need to recalibrate their strategies for acquiring new supply. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be overcompensation. In the aftermath of losing a grade A supply, narcissists might overcompensate by flaunting their achievements or seeking excessive attention in other areas. This behavior is an attempt to fill the void left by the lost supply. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be attention-seeking behavior. An increase in attention-seeking behavior is common. The narcissist may engage in dramatic or outrageous actions to draw attention and admiration from others, trying to replicate the validation they once received. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be relationship turmoil. The loss of grade A supply can create turbulence in the narcissist's other relationships. They may struggle to maintain existing connections as the emotional instability and heightened need for validation affect their interactions. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be impact on self-esteem. The narcissist's self-esteem is often fragile, and losing a significant source of validation can exacerbate feelings of insecurity and self-doubt. They may struggle with a diminished sense of self-worth as a result. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be obsession with the lost supply. In some cases, the narcissist might become obsessed with the lost grade A supply. They may ruminate on the loss and constantly think about ways to regain the individual's attention or approval. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be idealization of new supply. Once a new potential grade A supply is identified, the narcissist may idealize them intensely. They project their own needs and desires onto this new person, often creating unrealistic expectations. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be persistent pursuit. The narcissist might persistently pursue their former grade A supply, attempting to win them back through grand gestures or manipulation. This pursuit is driven by the desire to regain the lost source of admiration. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be financial and social impact. If the lost grade A supply was financially or socially influential, the narcissist may experience practical consequences. This could include a decrease in social status or a loss of financial support, further compounding their distress. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, New relationships may be pursued as substitutes for the lost grade A supply. These relationships are often temporary and may lack the depth and significance of the previous one. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be increased sense of entitlement. In the wake of losing a grade A supply, a narcissist may develop an increased sense of entitlement. They might believe they deserve to be admired and validated more than ever, leading to heightened demands from others. When a narcissist loses a grade A supply, there'll be potential for narcissistic rage. The loss can provoke narcissistic rage, characterized by intense anger and frustration. This rage is often directed at those they perceive as responsible for the loss or at the lost supply itself. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be emotional manipulation. The narcissist might engage in emotional manipulation to induce feelings of guilt or obligation in the lost supply or their current relationships. This tactic is aimed at regaining control and validation. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be reflection and self-blame. In rare cases, a narcissist might reflect on their own behavior and blame themselves for the loss. However, this reflection is often short-lived and quickly overshadowed by the need to regain supply. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be short-term gains. In the short term, the narcissist may experience some gains from new sources of validation. However, these gains are often fleeting and may not fully replace the high value of the lost grade A supply. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be emotional detachment. The narcissist might emotionally detach from others as a defense mechanism. This detachment helps them shield themselves from further disappointment and maintain a semblance of control over the emotional state. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be disregard for consequences. The narcissist may disregard the consequences of their actions in their quest for new supply. They might engage in risky or harmful behaviors without considering the impact on themselves or others. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be social media and public displays. Narcissists often use social media and public displays to broadcast their achievements or new relationships. This behavior is a strategy to attract attention and validation from a wider audience. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be attempts at reconciliation. The narcissist may make attempts at reconciliation with the lost grade A supply, hoping to restore the relationship and the admiration they once received. These attempts can be manipulative and insincere. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be emotional roller coaster. The emotional state of the narcissist can resemble a roller coaster, with periods of intense highs when they receive validation and deep lows when they experience rejection or failure. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be dependency on external validation. The dependency on external validation becomes more pronounced after losing grade A supply. The narcissist's self-worth remains heavily reliant on the approval and admiration of others. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be disillusionment. There may be a sense of disillusionment when the new sources of supply fail to meet the high standards set by the lost grade A supply. This disillusionment can lead to further dissatisfaction and instability. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be withdrawal from social circles. The narcissist in some cases may withdraw from social circles that remind them of the lost grade A supply. This withdrawal is a way to avoid reminders of their loss and to minimize emotional pain. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be intensified control measures. The narcissist may intensify their control measures in their current relationships to compensate for the loss. They might impose stricter rules or demands to regain a sense of dominance and validation. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be frantic search for approval. The search for approval becomes more frantic and urgent. The narcissist may engage in increasingly desperate behaviors to attract attention and validation from new or existing sources. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be short-lived emotional highs. New sources of validation may provide short-lived emotional highs, but these highs are often insufficient to fully replace the profound sense of admiration previously received from grade A supply. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be relationship recycling. Narcissists may recycle former relationships or sources of supply, attempting to reignite old connections that once provided high levels of validation. This recycling often involves trying to manipulate or charm previous partners back into their lives. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be display of victimhood. To gain sympathy and attention, the narcissist might display victimhood. They may portray themselves as wronged or mistreated by the lost grade A supply, hoping to elicit support from others. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be decrease in personal satisfaction. Personal satisfaction and fulfillment may decrease following the loss of grade A supply. The narcissist's ability to experience genuine contentment is often tied to the ongoing validation they receive from high-value sources. When the narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be engagement in risky behaviors. When the narcissist loses their supply, in their quest to find new supply or cope with the loss, the narcissist might engage in risky or self-destructive behaviors. These behaviors are driven by the need for immediate gratification and validation. When the narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be impact on family dynamics. The loss of grade A supply can affect family dynamics. The narcissist's behavior may strain family relationships as they may project their frustrations or instability onto family members. There will also be intensification of grandiosity. The narcissist might intensify their grandiose behavior to counterbalance the loss of validation. They may exaggerate their achievements or self-importance to attract new sources of admiration. When the narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be temporary improvement in other relationships. Other relationships may temporarily improve as the narcissist focuses on gaining validation from new sources. However, these improvements are often superficial and may not address underlying issues. When the narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be possible reassessment of self-worth. The narcissist might engage in a temporary reassessment of their self-worth. However, this reassessment is typically short-lived as the need for external validation remains dominant. When the narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be use of guilt and shame. The narcissist might use guilt and shame as tools to manipulate others. They may attempt to induce these feelings in their former grade A supply or in new sources to regain control and validation. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be escalation of hostility. There will be hostility towards the lost grade A supply or others who are perceived as threats. This narcissist's anger and resentment can lead to confrontations or attempts to undermine those they blame for their loss. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be temporary boost from flattery. Flattery from new sources may temporarily boost the narcissist's mood and self-esteem. However, this boost is often fleeting and may not fully address the deeper emotional issues caused by the loss. When the narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be experimentation with new tactics. The narcissist may experiment with new tactics to attract attention and validation. This experimentation can include adopting different personas or engaging in novel behaviors to see what resonates with potential new sources of supply. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be compensatory behaviors. To compensate for the loss, the narcissist might adopt behaviors designed to showcase their perceived value. This can include boasting about achievements or creating an image of success to attract admiration. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be increased sense of paranoia. The loss of grade A supply can increase the narcissist's sense of paranoia. They may become overly suspicious of others' intentions and worried about potential threats to their self-esteem and validation. There will also be possible identity crisis. The loss may trigger a temporary identity crisis. The narcissist might struggle with their sense of self as they face the challenge of redefining their identity without the constant validation of their grade A supply. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be adjustment in self-image. The narcissist's self-image may undergo adjustments as they attempt to reconcile the loss. These adjustments are often superficial and aimed at maintaining an illusion of self-importance. When the narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be potential for increased aggression. Increased aggression towards the lost supply or others can occur as the narcissist channels their frustration and anger. This aggression may manifest in various forms, from verbal attacks to passive-aggressive behaviors. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, they'll seek validation in achievements. The narcissist might seek validation through achievements or accolades. They may focus on accumulating external successes to compensate for the loss of emotional validation from the grade A supply. When a narcissist loses the grade A supply, there will be temporary withdrawal from public eye. A temporary withdrawal from the public eye may occur as the narcissist deals with the emotional state. This withdrawal is often a strategic retreat to regroup and plan their next moves for acquiring new supply. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be dependence on external validation. The dependence on external validation becomes more pronounced. The narcissist's self-worth remains precariously tied to the approval and admiration they receive from others, leading to increased efforts to secure new sources. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, There'll be heightened sensitivity to criticism. The narcissist may become more sensitive to criticism and perceived slights. This heightened sensitivity is a defense mechanism to protect their fragile self-esteem in the wake of losing their grade A supply. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be exploration of new social circles. Exploring new social circles is a common strategy. The narcissist may seek out new environments and groups where they can find potential sources of high-value validation. When the narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be reinvention of self. The narcissist might attempt to reinvent themselves to attract new grade A supply. This reinvention can involve adopting new interests, personas, or behaviors designed to appeal to potential admirers. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be increased focus on self-promotion. Self-promotion efforts may increase as the narcissist seeks to elevate their public image. This focus on self-promotion is aimed at attracting new sources of admiration and validation. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be heightened need for attention. A heightened need for attention becomes evident. The narcissist's desperation for validation can lead them to engage in attention-grabbing behaviors and seek out any form of an acknowledgement. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be potential for increased dependency on others. Increased dependency on others for validation can occur. The narcissist may become more reliant on new sources of supply to provide the emotional support and admiration previously offered by their grade A supply. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be strain on professional relationships. Professional relationships may experience strain as the narcissist's focus shifts to managing their emotional state. Their behavior may affect colleagues and professional interactions, potentially impacting their career. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be adaptation to new supply dynamics. The narcissist may adapt to new supply dynamics, learning to navigate and manipulate new sources of validation. This adaptation involves adjusting their strategies and behaviors to suit the preferences of their new targets. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be emotional turbulence in personal life. Emotional turbulence in the narcissist's personal life can increase. The loss of a grade A supply often leads to upheaval and instability in their personal relationships and emotional well-being. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be increased competitive behavior. Increased competitive behavior may manifest as the narcissist tries to outshine others. This competitiveness is driven by the need to assert their superiority and regain a sense of validation. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there'll be intensification of idealization. The idealization of new supply sources may intensify as the narcissist projects their desires onto them. This idealization serves to create a sense of importance and validation in the early stages of new relationships. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be potential for heightened perfectionism. Heightened perfectionism can emerge as the narcissist seeks to present themselves as flawless. This perfectionism is an attempt to secure admiration and approval from new sources of validation. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be exploration of new hobbies or interests. Exploration of new hobbies or interests can occur as the narcissist tries to fill the void left by the lost grade A supply. These new pursuits may be part of their strategy to attract attention and validation. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be emotional dependence on validation. The emotional dependence on validation remains strong. The narcissist's sense of self-worth is closely tied to the admiration and approval they receive from others, leading to continued efforts to secure new sources. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be temporary escapism. Temporary escapism may be employed to cope with the emotional pain of the loss. The narcissist might engage in activities or behaviors that provide a temporary distraction from the emotional turmoil. There will also be heightened need for control. The need for control becomes more pronounced as the narcissist attempts to manage the emotional state and regain a sense of stability. They may impose stricter control measures in their relationships and environments. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be potential for relationship sabotage. Sabotage of new relationships or sources of supply is possible if the narcissist feels threatened or insecure. This sabotage is a tactic to eliminate competition or regain control over their validation sources. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be increased focus on external appearance. An increased focus on external appearance may occur as the narcissist seeks to attract attention and validation. This focus can involve enhancing their physical appearance or public persona. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be strategic shifts in behavior. Strategic shifts in behavior may be employed to attract new sources of supply. The narcissist might change their approach or adopt new tactics to appeal to potential admirers. When a narcissist loses their greatest supply, there will be greater emphasis on self-image. A greater emphasis on self-image becomes evident as the narcissist strives to maintain an illusion of success and importance. This emphasis is a way to continue attracting validation and admiration. When a narcissist loses their greatest supply, there will be potential for increased isolation. Increased isolation can occur if the narcissist withdraws from social interactions due to their emotional state. This isolation may be both a coping mechanism and a strategic retreat. When a narcissist loses their greatest supply, there will be escalation of self-promotion tactics. Self-promotion tactics may escalate as the narcissist seeks to boost their public image. This escalation involves more frequent and overt displays of achievements and success. When a narcissist loses their greatest supply, there will be increased focus on personal success. An increased focus on personal success may be evident as the narcissist tries to regain a sense of validation. They may prioritize achievements and accolades as a way to attract admiration. There will also be possible short-term improvement in mood. Short-term improvements in mood may occur with new sources of validation, but these improvements are often temporary and may not fully address the underlying emotional issues. There will also be increased need for reassurance. The need for reassurance becomes more pronounced. The narcissist may seek constant validation and affirmation from others to compensate for the loss of their greatest supply. There will also be potential for enhanced self-importance. An enhanced sense of self-importance may emerge as the narcissist tries to assert their value and regain validation. This enhancement involves projecting an exaggerated sense of superiority. There will also be experimentation with different personas. Experimentation with different personas is possible as the narcissist tries to find new sources of supply. They may adopt various identities or behaviors to appeal to different potential admirers. There will also be increased use of charm and flattery. Increased use of charm and flattery is a common tactic. The narcissist may employ these strategies to win over new sources of validation and regain a sense of importance. There will also be potential for heightened paranoia. Heightened paranoia may occur as the narcissist becomes more suspicious of others. This paranoia is driven by fears of further rejection or threats to their sense of self-worth. There will also be the emotional roller coaster with the new supply. The emotional roller coaster experience with new supply sources can be intense. The narcissist may go through periods of elation and disappointment as they navigate new relationships. There will also be possible strain on existing relationships. Existing relationships may experience strain as the narcissist focus shifts to managing the emotional state and seeking new sources of validation. This strain can affect the dynamics of their personal connections. There will also be increased need for admiration. The need for admiration becomes more pronounced. The narcissist's self-worth remains heavily dependent on external validation, leading to heightened efforts to attract attention. There will also be strategic adjustments in behavior. Strategic adjustments in behavior may be made to align with the preferences of new sources of supply. The narcissist may alter their approach to attract and maintain validation. There will also be potential for increased frustration. Increased frustration can occur if new sources of validation fail to meet the narcissist's high expectations. This frustration may lead to further attempts to regain admiration. There will also be temporary boosts from public achievements. Temporary boosts in mood may be derived from public achievements or display of success. These boosts provide a short-term sense of validation but may not fully address deeper emotional needs. There will also be exploration of new social dynamics. The narcissist may explore new social dynamics to find potential sources of high-value validation. This exploration involves seeking out new environments and relationships. When a narcissist loses their greatest supply, there will be emotional impact on close relationships. The emotional impact on close relationships can be significant. The narcissist's behavior and emotional state may affect their interactions with family and close friends. There will be increased focus on personal image. An increased focus on personal image may be evident as the narcissist strives to present themselves in a favorable light. This focus involves enhancing their public persona to attract validation. There will also be potential for increased emotional outbursts. Increased emotional outbursts can occur as the narcissist struggles with the emotional state. These outbursts may be directed at those perceived as threats or sources of frustration. There will be heightened efforts to impress others. Heightened efforts to impress others become apparent. The narcissist may go to great lengths to showcase their achievements and capabilities to attract admiration. There will be temporary relief from new attention. Temporary relief from new attention and validation may be experienced. However, this relief is often short-lived and may not address the underlying emotional issues caused by the loss. When a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be possible re-evaluation of self-worth. A possible re-evaluation of self-worth may occur as the narcissist adjusts to the loss. This re-evaluation involves assessing their value and seeking new sources of validation. There will also be increased focus on external validation. The increased focus on external validation becomes evident. Narcissists' self-esteem remains closely tied to the approval and admiration they receive from others. There will also be potential for increased isolation. Increased isolation may result from the narcissist's emotional state and withdrawal from social interactions. This isolation can be both a coping mechanism and a strategic retreat. There will also be exploration of new validation sources. The narcissist may explore new validation sources to replace the lost grade A supply. This exploration involves seeking out individuals or environments that offer high levels of admiration. And finally, when a narcissist loses their grade A supply, there will be ongoing search for grade A supply. The ongoing search for a new grade A supply continues as the narcissist attempts to find a replacement for their lost source of validation. This search involves persistent efforts to attract and maintain high-value sources of admiration. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you've learned a thing or two. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you've not done so.